So as you can see, a funny thing happened installing the Heywood Wakefield drawer. It was not lining up and a little crooked, and I couldn't figure out why, and I was hiccuping. And the reason is because the bottom guide or rail is busted. And so I need to make some rail. And so I had a bare piece of maple, but then I found this piece of trim here, and it is just a hair within the thickness of what I need. So I'm going to take my trusty old beat up Japanese saw. I made a rough mark here. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to plane off this part, and then I'm going to take it to whatever this is. I'm going to make it match with that, and then I'm going to start maybe thickness planing it just a hair, and pretty much I'll be ready to go. This is my trusty Japanese saw. I've been beating this thing to death because I sort of beat it to death. I was cutting something on a metal vise, and as you can see, the teeth went through the cut, through the wood, beyond the wood. When the wood came off, it dropped down, and then let's say this was metal. It came down and hit, and it busted a bunch of teeth off. But I tell you what, if you're not familiar with them, this thing still cuts like a dream for the most part. And so I have been buying these things like I know how to use them. But I've been riding this horse for years now, cutting different woods. Not every day, I admit, but every time I've needed it to make a nice cut, it's come through. All right, so I'm being a bit of a chicken here because I need to thickness plane this, and I have a lot of different tools and stuff and power tools and sanders, but I thought I'd try this guy. You get a big wide flat base, and then you get a card that goes in there kind of backwards, and then you turn this to push the blade out to where it starts grabbing or cutting. What's screwing it up is that this has a pretty hard finish on it, and this is actually supposed to be good for scraping that finish off. So that's what I'm going to try doing, and then I'm just going to try to shave it down because I don't need to take very much off, but I need to thin it out to match this guy. So this is whatever number that is, 40 something I think, from Bench Dog. And so anyways, I'm going to try it and see what happens. Okay, so the technical term is I punted. This I think is better in like doing a large surface, wide open spaces. And the balance was feeling funny, and so I switched to this guy. This is a harder card, and it's giving me what I want, and that it's shaving it down and taking off that probably catalyzed varnish. I'm actually going to flip this over. I'm going to check too to see if I'm cutting it square. But I'm gonna take the finish off this side, because whatever you got on one side you want on the other side so that they absorb moisture at the same rate. So I'm gonna scratch the finish down on this side and just try to keep it even, but slowly and surely I think it's getting there. So there it is. Behold, gaze upon the beauty. This is the original Heywood Wakefield rail with the busted. Again, every time they put a nail in it, it split. So I don't know. Hopefully, at some point they started putting, pre-drilling and putting screws in there. They did a screw in the front, and it's countersunk. So I am not sure what they were thinking with this in the back, because it's just center cut. But anyways, the plan is, if you're curious what happens next, I match this up, and then there's a hole in there, and what I would do is probably use a standard sheet metal screw, but I would just go in there and I would take a little marker or mechanical pencil and I'd make a mark, and then I would use the old hole, and then I would drill through and countersink this so there's room for the head to sit in there, and then add a screw in the end.